you doing, everybody? This is Tracer83, and it's been a while. That's because I just moved from El Paso, Texas to southern Arizona, and it's taken me a while to get situated in my new house and get moved in, all that kind of thing. I also wanted to take some time to go out and check out the local ranges and shoot a few matches and whatnot, just so I'd have something to talk about. I figured today I would make a quick follow-up video to my last one, or at least to my last review on the SIG P320. And that's because, first off, I figured I would just say a thing or two about, is it still holding up as a competition gun? Is it still doing the job? Am I getting tired of it? The answer to that, in short, is no, I'm not getting tired of it. I plan to continue shooting it. It's shot very well, and I'm getting more and more adjusted to it, especially since I made the switch over to the full size. More importantly though, at the end of my last video, I brought up a couple points, or I talked about a couple items that I'll address here again, and that's the modifications that I've made to the gun. I showed you sort of a box opening where I got some aftermarket parts in. So I'll talk for a couple minutes about how those have worked out, and more immediately, I want to talk about the issues I was having with it in terms of, was it functioning? And I said I was having some problems, that it was giving me failures to extract. I sort of downplayed that a little bit because I wanted to focus on the positive aspects of the gun, but I'll go into a few of the details about how that's worked out and how I've solved the issues. To put things simply, I started to have a real headache with both of these guns starting a couple of months ago. And I put, I think, over 7,000 rounds through the compact, and then not quite as many through the full size before I started having real issues to the point where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I've been shooting the compact for a little over a year. I started off shooting USPSA and IDPA with it, even though it's a compact gun. It's what I had, and it's what I got adjusted to. So I just shot the crud out of it. But towards halfway through that round count is when I started having periodic issues, and I thought maybe it was an ammo thing. I wasn't sure. I didn't analyze it too much. And then I went ahead and got the full size because I figured that'd be a little more appropriate for competitions. Well, I started to have the same problem with this, and it got worse with the compact. So before I did anything like send them off to the factory or even call SIG, I decided to do an actual test with both of them. I bought 4 different types of factory ammo, some cheap stuff and some more high-end stuff, and I took out a couple of different reloads that I put together, or loads. And those were with a couple of different bullets as well. So I put a bunch of them through both guns, and I was still having periodic issues with the full size. It wasn't nearly as bad, but it was enough that I would take notice of it. And then with the compact, I was having an issue about once every magazine, which is just completely unacceptable. So I finally called up SIG and I said, hey, here are the issues I'm having with the guns. I've put every kind of ammo you can think of through both of them. And it's become such an issue that I'm going up to a stage at a match, and I'm all tense because I'm afraid that I'm going to have an issue that's just gonna hose me. So they said, hey, you know what? You don't have that many rounds through them. Well, actually, you have a lot of rounds through them, but you haven't had them all that long, so don't worry about the fact you haven't filled out the warranty card or anything like that. Just, let us know what you want to do. You can send them back to us, or we can try to send you a new extractor when they come in, because they were out of stock at the moment. And they said, but if we just send you the parts, which are suspects, so the extractors, then if it turns out it's something else, then you're kind of back to square one. But if you send them back to us, then we can look at them, we can change out those parts, and if it turns out to not be something so simple, we can look into it deeper. I said, cool, I'm getting ready to move, but when I get to where I'm going, I'll call you guys back and probably send them off to you. I got here, I hung around for about a month before I did anything about it. I even bought another gun while I was waiting to send them off, and while they were gone, something for me to shoot, the Glock 34. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, I called him back up, got a different guy, a different customer service guy, and he was like, yeah, just let me pull up your file. I see you called a month or two ago or whatever. If you want, I'll just send you a shipping label. You'll have it in about 5 minutes. Just check your inbox, print it out, take it to FedEx, and you'll be good to go. So I said, cool. They said the turnaround would probably be a few weeks. Well, I sent them off, started shooting competitions down here in Arizona with the Glock, and I expected these to be gone for, I just figured they would be out of sight, out of mind for quite a while, so I'd get adjusted to shooting the other gun that I bought. Well, I got these back about 10 days later, I think, completely fixed. At least so far, I hope so. They came with a little note for each of them, said what they did to the pistols on the compact, which was a little bit more beat up. I think they changed out the striker, which was not really giving me problems, I don't think, but I think they put the most recent striker that they're using in here. Also, they changed out, I believe, the ejector rod and spring. Didn't change out the, or excuse me, not the ejector, the extractor, but they didn't change out the extractor itself. So I figured, well, this will be interesting. They did the same thing to the full size. The only thing they changed out was the rod, the extractor rod. Again, didn't change out the actual extractor, but they were like, hey, we put this number of rounds of this ammo through both of them, no malfunctions, everything functions to factory specs. So I took them both out to the range. I took them to a match, and I've shot, I don't know, 500 or 600 rounds through the full size since I got it back. I've had one malfunction, and it was just a failure to feed, which that could have been 100 things. It could have just been that my feed ramp was dirty. A failure to feed, if it happens once in 500 rounds, I'm definitely willing to live with, because that's usually just a matter of slap the mag and it'll go back into battery. No failures to extract, no other issues. So I've been very happy. I'll let you know if anything changes, but I've got a hunch that it's gonna keep on working, because I've put several different loads through it since it's gotten back. And also I played with the extractor a little bit, and I'm going off of memory, but it does feel stiffer than it was before, leading me to believe that it's getting a more positive purchase on the rim of the case. And then the same thing with the compact. I haven't put nearly as many rounds through this. I only put a few magazines through it of a couple different types of ammo, and I haven't had any issues with it. So bottom line, I'm really happy with the results. I'm happy with the fact they came back and they seem to work well now. I'm also very happy with SIG's customer service, because I was expecting maybe a little bit of pushback because I didn't fill out the warranty card or whatever, and I wasn't really specific on what ammo I put through both of them. I was just like, hey, I've put, I think, this amount through them and sort of these general brands or whatever. But they were like, you know what, it's something that we should take care of for you, because it just doesn't sound right. So the fact that they were able to expedite these so quickly, get them to the factory, look at them, and get them back. They didn't just sit around on some workbench. Obviously, something I'm really happy about. Also, something really cool is I brought up this issue with kind of one of my mentors back in El Paso. He runs the El Paso USPSA matches, Francis Livingston. I brought it up to him. He sent an email off to Max Michel, and Max Michel was like, hey, Francis, thanks for keeping in touch. I haven't heard of the P320s having that issue. This sounds unusual, but if it keeps on being an issue and nothing gets done about it, let me know. I don't know if he remembers that or not, but that was kind of neat, just to see that somebody shooting 4 SIG and working 4 SIG cares that much. Next, I'm going to talk about the modifications that I've made to the pistol. Starting with the sights, I put a set of Dawson Precision fiber optic sights on the slide. The front is a narrow fiber optic. This one's red. It also comes with a green. It's serrated in the back, on the back edge of the blade, and also the back of the rear sight is just flat black serrated. And that really helps. I've talked about this with a couple other videos I've made discussing different pistol designs. This comes with a really decent set of factory sights. I got the Sig Light night sights on both the compact and the full size. They're fine, but when you're shooting competitions, it's hard to beat fiber optic sights, because when you're shooting fast, you're trying to do follow-up shots, do multiple shot strings, it's good to just have your eye go straight to that bright dot at the end of your muzzle. And it does almost emulate having a little red dot on the top of your gun. Not quite, but it's sort of the same general idea. Moving on to the frame itself, I talked quite a bit about how I found the small grip frames for both pistols and how that helps me get to the controls a lot easier. Well, I also stippled them, and I've pretty much started stippling all of my polymer frame pistols, which really helps, because then you don't have to rely on grip tape that comes off and that sort of stuff. This does put me in ESP division, I believe, for IDPA, but it keeps me in production as long as you don't stipple forward of certain areas. If you keep it on the grip itself, that'll keep you in production division for USPSA. The other reason that this is an ESP gun for IDPA is the other important modification I've made to it for me, the extended mag release. The mag release that it comes with is good. It's one of the better ones that I've used on any pistol, but I do, with my small hands and short thumbs, still run into issues occasionally, maybe 1 out of 10 times, missing the mag release as I'm trying to do a really fast reload. You know, you're shooting, your hands are tensed up, you're trying to keep a good grip on the pistol, and sometimes it's hard to just break that grip, even though you do it 1,000 times in practice. Anyway, this is only 1/10 of an inch longer than the stock mag release, and this is made by Springer Precision, by the way. It's only 1/10 of an inch longer, which doesn't seem like much, but combined with the narrow grip, it makes it so I don't even have to turn the gun in my hand at all to get to the mag release. I can just drop my thumb straight down and hit it. I've heard some people say that you know, you shouldn't be able to just get to your mag release without turning the gun. You should have to turn the gun in your hand. You don't want to accidentally hit the mag release and drop the mag. I haven't had that happen to me at all with this gun, and I've shot it a lot. And it's really sped up my reloads, because I have more confidence when I'm going for my reloads, because I'm not thinking about whether or not I'm gonna fumble it, so to speak. And at the end of the day, this is a competition gun. If I want to use it for serious purposes, I guess I can just put the old grip back on, and I'll be in less danger of accidentally hitting the mag release. So I also, on the extended mag release, being from Springer Precision, I guess this is a little bit of a plug for Springer Precision. I couldn't find one of these anywhere for the P320s because it's still a relatively new gun, and for the longest time you couldn't find aftermarket parts for it at all. And Springer was the first manufacturer I saw to make the extended mag releases, and that was relatively recently. So as soon as I saw it, I jumped on it and grabbed it. The only other mechanical change I've made to the gun is I put a 1911 style guide rod in the gun and used a 13-pound spring. When I first changed out the guide rod, I was using, I think, a 10 or 11-pound spring, and that's really light. It's what some of the charts I've looked at have recommended for a 9mm, but it made it so it was really easy for me to move the slide back and forth, so much so that I was worried about it going back into battery. I didn't have any issues that I noticed with that actually happening, but I was still a little nervous about it. So I put a 13-pound spring in here, and that seems to be just about right for the ammo I'm using and all that. Also, just as kind of an aside, some people seem to think that having a heavier spring in the gun is actually what reduces recoil. In fact, it's the opposite. Having a lighter spring reduces felt recoil because the energy, when you got a heavier spring, the energy is basically getting transferred to the coil, which is not releasing all that much as it comes back because it's stiffer, so that's going back into your hand. If you've got a lighter spring, then that's letting the slide move back freely. And the force of the recoil impulse is not from the slide slamming back into your hand. It's from that energy being transferred into the spring and back into your hand. The only reason you can't go too light, well, there are lots of reasons, but a couple of reasons you can't go too light is you need the gun to still function. You need it to bring the next round back into battery, and also you don't want to wear the frame of your gun out from it just continually slamming back into the frame. That was just a little note, something that I found out in reading as I was thinking about changing out springs. Bottom line, the 13-pound spring seems to work really well, and it's got a recoil impulse that I like. You don't want it to be too snappy, and you don't want it to be too sluggish. Okay, so I'll finish this off by talking a little bit about a couple things I've noticed that irk me a little bit. And they're not major things, they're not deal breakers, but they're just sort of things that I started to notice that do get on my nerves once in a while. With the full size, this is not nearly so pronounced in the compact for some reason, but regardless of what fire control unit, so the internal chassis, regardless of which one I put in the full size frame, the one that came with it, or if I put the one that originally came with the compact in here, it's still more gritty than in the compact. And I noticed this happening. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but check it out. So I've got the slide racked. Watch the slide. Did you see that? I'm gonna try it again. You see how much the slide moved? It kind of pops, and it starts out pretty much flush with the frame, and then you pull the trigger and it lifts. So the internal mechanism, the sear and all that, as it's engaging the shoe of the striker, is lifting the frame up. And I don't know if that's the way they all are. I haven't tried any of my friends' guns out to see if that's happening. It doesn't seem to affect the function of the gun at all. I mean, it hasn't caused me any problems, but I do notice that when I'm dry firing, especially when I'm trying to do some kind of slow fire accuracy based stuff, I can actually see the sights lift in the back. So I've got them all squared up, equal height, equal light, that thing, and then the back does this. In shooting, it's probably not going to affect anything, because where your sights are when the trigger breaks is what matters. So a little bit of a pet peeve, but not a big deal. And maybe when I send this off to get a trigger job, maybe that'll change. Another thing is, this is not a function thing, it's just a cosmetic thing. On the magwell or the magazine opening, it gets really abused with practice. So after doing tons and tons of reloads, this down here, and I've seen pictures of it much worse, this just gets chewed all up, and it's worse on my original grip frame that I had with it. That's something that, you know, if you're really concerned about it, you can just go out and buy another grip and have that be your actual competition grip or whatever, and then just have one that you tear the hell out of. Cosmetic thing, small thing, like I said, but it's something. And then lastly, I'll talk about, and this is not something that this isn't a complaint, it's just something I'm gonna do. I am gonna send this in to get a trigger job now that it seems to be working fine. I'm probably gonna send it in to Bruce Gray, who is the manager for Team SIG, and he's the renowned SIG armorer or gunsmith. Everybody on Team SIG, well, I shouldn't say that, I don't know that for sure, but he does the trigger jobs for most, if not all, of Team SIG. And I've tried a couple different guns with trigger jobs. I got one friend who has one by Bruce Gray, and it feels a little bit lighter and it feels a whole lot smoother. There's another one by, his name's Burke. I think was it David Burke? I don't remember. His last name's Burke. He does pretty much an identical trigger job as far as I know. And there's a fella that shoots with Team FN who shoots at a local club back home in IDPA. His name's Pat Doyle. He's got one that he just kind of has sitting in his safe, and he has a Burke trigger job on it. It feels very similar to the Gray trigger job. So I'll go with one or the other. And Pat has offered on numerous occasions to let me borrow his while this is getting shipped off to get worked on. So next time I'm back in Las Cruces, I'll probably give him a call and take him up on that. If I don't decide to sort of make a study out of shooting the Glock 34, I was shooting the Glock 34 for 2, I think maybe 3 months while I was waiting to send off the SIG and get it worked on, and while it was gone. Started to get used to the Glock 34, made all kinds of changes to it, and then got these back really quick and started shooting them again. So I'll either borrow one or try a different pistol, in which case, you know, I'll let you know what I think about that. So next time you see this, hopefully it'll have a nice trigger on it. If it's not mine, if it's not the one that I'm getting back from the workshop, it'll be the one that I'm borrowing from Pat. In conclusion, I got both of these guys back from the factory. They seem to be shooting just fine. I'll let you know if that changes. Did some modifications to the full size, and I highly recommend, if you're looking to improve the performance of one of your SIGs, you look into a couple of these. Also, maybe even get yourself a high quality trigger job from a well-renowned gunsmith. As always, I hope you found this video informative or at least entertaining. Like and share with your friends. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next time, keep your eye on that front sight.